I forgot to do my voucher.
Joining us for a conversation is Derek Mcferson of Gold79 Mines. Mr. McPherson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on again.
Well, great to have you back on the program, sir, as Gold79 Mines has just released some exciting news for shareholders coming out of Arizona. Before we get into company specifics, Mr. McPherson, you have over 10 years of experience in capital markets. From a macro perspective, what is your view on the disconnect between gold and gold mining stocks?
It's an interesting question. And it's probably, we've always gone through, this has happened before, right? This isn't the first time we've seen this kind of disconnect between the actual miners and the gold price. The gold price has held up exceptionally well over the last year, especially given the ratings coming out of most central banks to fight inflation. And I think that's the reflections the gold price is up to fight because of inflation. I think the disconnect between gold miners and the gold stocks, the gold price and the gold stocks, is a lack of greed. Up until very recently, we hadn't seen a lot of M&A activity. There was the occasional big merger like a Newmont Newcrest, but we hadn't seen companies reaching down into the development and exploration space. One of the things noticed from the Denver Gold Show when we were there is that a lot of these mid-tier companies, so these companies that are sort of 200 to 500,000 ounces a year of production, are building a lot of cash. And now we're starting to see that M&A activity pick up with developers, development stage companies being taken out. And I think that that's what's going to trigger the closing of that gap, that disconnect between gold stocks and the gold price. As greed, you start to see these takeouts, and then that will eventually lead to that gap closing.
Well, speaking of greed, one of the companies that I'm very excited about is Gold79 Mines, which hosts 3 promising gold projects with multi-million ounce potential. Sir, for someone new to the value proposition, take us into the prolific Walker Lane Mining District and please reacquaint us with Gold79 Mines.
Yeah, so Gold79 Mines has three projects in the Walker Lane trend of Nevada and Arizona. Our flagship project is Gold Chain, the one that we're going to be talking about in a little more detail on that exploration target. But, Gold Chain, the work that we've done there to date, we've demonstrated three multi-kilometer style targets, all that have good gold values. And one of them now I believe we have a short path to a resource. And that project, because of its location, is very efficient for us to work. Our other project, Jefferson Canyon, is 7 kilometers from Kinross's Round Mountain mine, and is basically surrounded on 3 sides by Kinross's claims. Late 2022, we optioned that to Kinross. That actually helped fund the last gold program at Gold Chain. Expecting to see that project drilled this year. That option agreement is a bit unique because for Kinross to earn an interest in the project, they have to basically write Gold79 a check. For 70% interest, it's $5 million. Where an 80% to get to 80%, it's that next 10% is another $5 million. So potentially, a check for $10 million coming to Gold79. When you compare that to our Canadian dollar $5 million market cap, it's pretty attractive and pretty big embedded value. And our third project is Tip Top, that it's a little bit further north along the Walker Lane trend, and it's in a district that's seeing a lot of activity. Headwater Gold is active there with their partner Newmont on a project called Spring Peak. You have Hecla's getting more active on their Aurora mine, and then you also have Borealis as a new company coming public that has the old Borealis mine in that area. So expecting some news flow there. And so the attractive part about Gold79 is that my view is that any one of those projects could justify a multiple of our market cap, and we have 3 of them. Additionally, we're a team that's very vested. Management directors own over 20% of the company. And so I think that there's, we win with shareholders, and that's the objective, is to create shareholder value.
Well, you have the right location, the right value proposition, and management is committed to the company. So let's go on site. Ms. McPherson, take us to Arizona and onto the Gold Chain project, where your company has just defined an exploration target on the Tyro Main Zone. Now, before we get into today's exciting news, can you provide us with some historical context on the Tyro Main Zone?
Right. So the Tyro Main Zone is one of the multi-kilometer targets at Gold Chain. Tyro was it's on 3 sets of patented claims, which is a huge advantage from a land tenure perspective. In the U.S., it's effectively private land. We have a lot more flexibility from a permitting perspective, and so that for us, that's very exciting. The other thing, and so we did this deal on Tyro, but the Tyro Main Zone is just portion of that target. And I think that's an important part to get across. That Tyro vein system is 3.5 kilometers long. And we see different parts of it across the project, going across the project. But the advantage of Tyro Main Zone, that is on the patented claims and sticks out of the ground. It's not a very conceptual target. We know what the gold system looks like because of the past. There is some small scale past production there, and so that's what makes it such an easy target for us to be chasing. It's why we focused on Tyro versus, say, like the sheet trail, the Banner sheet trail trend, which has a lot of great gold showings, but it's a little more conceptual. Frisco Graben, great, a large 4 kilometer scale. Looks like a low sulfidation epithermal system, but the gold zone looks like it's a little deeper. So, priority is on the low hanging fruit, which is the Tyro Main Zone.
Sir, can you walk us through the Tyro Main area geological map and share with us what work your team has completed to date?
So yeah, in 2021, we acquired the patented claims. Basically, we signed the deal on Friday and we were drilling on Saturday. And we drilled 4 holes at the northern end of the project. This was after we'd done some mapping and sampling. And in that program, we hit 20 meters to 2 grams effectively from surface. That was really encouraging. It was one of the better holes we drilled in that campaign. Circle back around, some additional mapping and sampling. We did some underground sampling from some of the old underground workings. We've got 25 meters to 2.5 across the structure on the underground sampling. So very good, confirming the numbers that we had. And then in 2023, we did our next drill campaign and we drilled it at the south end of the target. And so there we had 44 meters at 2 grams gold. And so now you have a kilometer long of, where we have multiple data points showing us this plus 2 gram target. Additionally and uniquely, and something that we end up excluding from the exploration target because it would skew the numbers too high, was hole 28. And so the last hole we drilled of that 2023 drill program, we hit 9 meters at 51 grams into the White Spar Fault, which is a cross structure on the Tyro Main Zone. That hole in and of itself is the best hole of the property. It's the highest grade sample we've ever taken within that. And so that is something that we need to do some work to follow up on. We've excluded from the exploration target because otherwise the numbers become a little bit too, would be intellectually honest, I guess is probably the right way to describe it. But that's an opportunity for us to push the grade and the exploration target much higher if we can get some more data around that particular hole.
And what are some of the main highlights on the Tyro Main Zone?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is that I think the most important thing is, besides those drill holes that I talked about, those 2 gram, those big wide 2 gram intercepts, this is a target that comes to surface and it's on private ground or patented claims. And so this is something we can drill off very quickly. It's not, we're not drilling, this isn't we're not drilling the soil anomaly. It's not a pink dot. We know what we've got. And if you look at the images that we have on the website or in our presentation about Tyro and that Tyro Main Zone, that there's nothing conceptual about the target. It's us. We need to keep drilling it. And I think that's the opportunity to get to a resource very quickly there.
To appreciate the grade, are we looking at, I know the answer to this, but I just want you to clarify it. We're looking at an open pit deposit here potentially, correct?
Yes, absolutely. This is definitely an open pit. So, a 1.5 to 2.5 gram open pit deposit is very high grade. For reference, there's a mine operating to the south of us that has their reserve grade is 0.4.
Yes.
So that's, this is a, I guess, for lack of a better description, this is a high grade open pit mine potentially.
Now, should your team be able to demonstrate your proof of concept, what is Gold79 Mines' path to a resource?
Yeah, so the path to the resource for us is threefold. It's sort of 3 steps, and we've laid out what we think the meterage is on those steps, but each step sort of is going to determine what the next step requires, right? The first step is to do some trenching. Again, the advantage of having private land and having a target that sticks out of the ground. We're going to do a series of systematic trenches, and if done properly with channel sampling, it's almost as good as a drill hole, and it is as good as a drill hole from a resource perspective. That's a pretty low cost step for us, and the key there is that we want to do this trenching across the width of the whole length of the Tyro Main Zone, and then use that as a basis to understand grade continuity. One of the big things when you start working on resources is the statistical consistency of the grade, and that will give us a big step in our understanding of the statistical consistency. So far, the data points we have show it's consistent, but obviously there's a little more work that's required to make it to get up to a resource. The second step then is diamond drilling. To date, we've only drilled RC, which gives you a little less information geologically as you're progressing. Obviously, substantially cheaper, so it's more capital efficient. And so we need to drill some drill some diamond core. And there's a couple things. We want to drill some deeper holes into the Tyro Main Zone, sort of demonstrate that 300 meter depth potential. We want to drill some holes into the extensions, so into the Sunrise vein, which is an extension of the Tyro, and that's a little bit deeper target. And we need to drill some Probable, where we hit that 9 meters at 51 grams. It's a geologically complex area there because you have a cross structure coming through. Geologic complexity is usually good for gold grade, and we saw that with hole 28. But we need to understand it a little better so that we can properly incorporate it into our exploration model and our exploration and determine how much of that really high grade is there. And then the third step is basically we would once we've done those two steps, we step back and do the RC program. The RC program would be basically to fill in the gaps that we didn't with diamond drilling. And while we have put some ranges out as to what we think those RC and diamond programs are, it really is how much diamond we're going to have to drill is going to depend on what we learn from the channel sampling program. How much RC we drill is going to depend on what we learn from channel sampling and the diamond drilling. And so there is a process there for us to get to that resource. And I said we want to prove some of the conceptual things as well, right? Prove that it goes to depth, prove some of the along strike extensions, and start to demonstrate that this prove to the market that this exploration target that we have is just the beginning. And I think that's a key element on Goldchain is that Goldchain is a big land package in the US. And it has big targets on it, and we're just starting to scratch the surface.
Now, the following question is news flow related, but before we leave the project site, multi-layered question. What is the next unanswered question for Gold79 Mines? When can we expect an answer, and what will determine success?
I think the next unanswered question is grade continuity along the Tyro Main Zone. And I think that the way we're going to answer that question is the trenching program we talked about. Trenching program is relatively low cost. It's only going to cost about $100,000 to actually execute it. And so we're hoping to be able to do that this spring before it gets hot in Arizona. Definitely don't want to be out there cutting channel samples in 120 degree heat. And so hopefully that will start to answer the question for us. And then that starts to lead to the next steps as far as what they are. The other thing that we want to do is, and we want to do some geophysics on the Frisco Graben and the extensions of the Tyro vein system where the target's a little bit deeper. We think we might be able to get some insight as to where the gold zones are there. And so that's another sort of secondary unanswered question, but the focus is the Tyro Main Zone because it's so much less conceptual than it's not conceptual as a target.
Now, the reason I referenced that question, I believe we had you last on the program the 1st of May last year.
Right.
And so we'd like to have you back on the program on a more regular basis. So that's why I asked the question there. So when would you expect to have your next press release coming out, you would say?
I think it'll be a little bit sooner than that. One of the things that we've been doing, obviously with capital markets being tight, we didn't do as much boots on the ground work at the end of last year, but my VPX, Rob, spent a lot of time, kind of reviewing our data and going through, these different targets that we have at Goldchain. And so what we're hoping to do is sort of, explain that to the market a little bit better. And so the plan is right now is that we would start to have some press releases talking about the Frisco Graben and why we think that's a really attractive target. Talking about the that sheep trail banner trend where we've got some decent drill results and we have some holes where we missed. It has some really good sampling, and so we want to spend some time on that as well. And so I think we want to one of our objectives for this year is to do a better job communicating to the market on the potential that we see, because obviously that we think there's a significant disconnect for what we have and what our market cap is.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear there. All right. Leaving the project site, sir, let's look at some numbers. Please provide the capital structure for Gold79 Mines.
Sure. I think the Gold79 has 193 million shares out. I think a key thing here is that we have Kinross as a major shareholder. They own 5.2% of the company. That was part of the Jefferson Canyon deal. Management directly owns 19.8%. If you count the fund that I manage, it's a little over 20. For institutions, there's we have 10% of our stock is held in institutions. The rest is high net worth and retail. And I think that's a good mix, and it's getting because of over time that's getting it's been getting a little bit tighter. And so that's good. And the AI, I think we've seen one of the things that we've seen towards the end of this year, end of last year, and the beginning of this year, is we're really seeing the stock consolidating at the current level and holding. And so that's something that's encouraging after some difficult times as well.
Now, before we close, sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
I think one of the key things that does keep me up at night is just, making sure that we can demonstrate the value here. The challenge for us isn't the science, it isn't the project, it isn't the location, it isn't permitting with Gold Chain. It literally is, we need to put money in the ground, whether it's drilling or trenching, and we can start to prove it. And so I think that's the challenge for me, is making sure that we keep the company funded and putting out that news flow that's going to get the value for shareholders.
And speaking of that value, if I may just interject, just for full disclosure, I'm a proud shareholder of Gold79 Mines. I did participate in the financing. I recall I was down at the Rural Symposium, and I was emceeing there, and I had to leave to run to the bank to make sure I got there for the financing. You and I were going back and forth, and I was not in a position where I had the right transportation, so it was a tricky situation. My point to all that, ladies and gentlemen, is the share price at the time for the financing was at least 3 cents, if my memory serves me correct. Currently, you're trading probably right around 2.5 cents. No complaints from me. I'm actually, as a speculator in this space, as I enjoy the value proposition, I want to buy. Now, naturally, I know you want the share price higher, but this is the opportunity for anyone listening here, is that you have a company that has the right location, the right management team, and they're going to get very active this year and in future years here. This is the time to come in and get that appreciation in share price, in my opinion. Last question, sir, and that is, what did I forget to ask?
Well, I think the other thing that shareholders have to look forward to this year is our Jefferson Canyon project with the work that Kinross is doing. So we're in the middle. The permitting process has been very slow there. It's been challenging for us, but it's actually moving again, and that's something that I'm excited about. And we put an update out at the end of last year, and we think Kinross will be drilling at Jefferson Canyon this year. And if you remember, Jefferson Canyon, there's a historic hole there that's 41 meters at 6 grams gold and 400 grams silver. So there's a good target there, and we're really looking forward to Kinross getting out there and putting some holes in it.
Well, Ms. McPherson, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Wishing you and Gold79 Mines the absolute best, sir.
Thank you very much, and look forward to catching up again soon.
All the best to you, sir.
Thanks.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.